Hello, this is Paul Peary. I'll be your instructor for Math 100/320. Um, and let me do a quick overview of how to get set up and how to navigate the course. So first thing we want to do is we want to go to the Lee College website. It's at www.lee, that's lee.edu. Then from there you want to click on the Logins button. That will take you to several logins. You want to click on the Blackboard login button right here, and that will take you to the screen right here. You want to enter your username. It's usually the same as your email or the same thing you would use to log into MyLC. It all should be the same username. If you can't log in, you're probably going to have to contact the Lee College Help Desk, and they can help you get into your account. Then you would click and type in your password, push continue, and you'll see a scene something like this. Now do want to click on Blackboard Learn, but if you don't see Blackboard Learn or you're missing some of your other applications here, you want to click on the menu and it'll list out all the apps that you have access to. You can go back to frequent in this case because we do have Blackboard Learn there. We want to click on that and it'll bring up all the Blackboard courses or shells that you have access to. Now, you want to scroll down until you get to MC Math 320 W05 P period dot fall 2026. The MC means it's a merged course. That means that I merged the Math 100 and the Math 320 courses just into one Blackboard shell. So if you don't see Math 100 listed underneath your courses, don't worry, it's been merged with the 320 and now they're just one course that should show. So we're going to click on that and go into it. Looks something like this. Now from here, first we want to get set up on MyLab. So what you need is you need to get your access code. So underneath Start Here, it's this little folder underneath Course Content. You want to click Start Here, scroll down until you get to Vital Source Bookshelf Pearson Access Codes in here. Then you click on that, and after a while it'll load up and you'll have access to your Vital Source Bookshelf. Now, if yours does not start in fall 2026, you want to push change term and you want to go to fall 2026 and confirm. If you haven't gone to Lee College before or you haven't used this bookshelf before, you should only have fall 2026. Now at this point, we want to scroll down until we actually get to, and it should match the course you're in. So this up here says Math 320 W05 P period dot fall 2026. So we want to scroll down until we get to it. So this isn't it. This is 330. Keep going. The 330, not it. 330. Keep going until you get to the correct course, right? Here it is. So this is MC, and notice it matches exactly the name of your course that you're in right here, right? So we want to click on this one. We want to click on Access Instructions. Now they didn't give me an access code, so when I click on it, no access code pops up. You should see an access code. There should be a button to the right that says Copy Access Code, and you want to click on that to copy the access code. Then what you want to do at this point is you want to go back to, you just push the back button, or you could click the name of the course up here, and that'll navigate back to your course content. So let's click on that. Okay. So at this point, we want to go up to course content link to MyLab because we want to use the link to MyLab. You have to use the link to MyLab to actually get set up on the course. There's a bunch of information embedded in this link right here, including your username, password, course ID, and other things. So we have to use this, and this will actually connect MyLab and Blackboard together. So you're going to click on that button. You're going to have to click on several buttons to get through, including Open Pearson, Launch. Then you're going to click on Open MyLab and Mastering. Now, because you're a student, it's going to take you to the Pearson website, and it'll just basically say confirm your username and password. Just confirm it, don't change anything, and the next screen is going to ask you for the access code, and the access code that you're going to enter is the one that you got from the Vital Source bookshelf, the one you copied from there. You can push Control V to paste it in there. Mac has a different shortcut. I don't remember what it is. You could write down the password that you got from, or the access code, not password. You can write down the access code. You can take a picture of it. You can try to highlight all of it and then copy it, however you need to, but you need to get that access code. And then when it asks for it, you need to enter it. At that point, you've actually linked Pearson and Blackboard together. So now let's go into your course. Okay, so we're actually into your course, and from a student view, when you first log in, it should look like this. Notice in the upper right corner, you have this little percent. It says 3% for me. That's my current grade. So you should never have to ask me what your grade in the course is. You should always be able to see your grade, if nothing else, just by logging in. If you go back to Blackboard, there is a grade book, excuse me, that also shows you your overall grade in the course. Okay. Now, you can also scroll down and there is an entire months of assignments right over here. Notice that there are circles, those are your homework assignments. And if you scroll down, it has all of the assignments for that month listed in the order that you need to do them. You can narrow this view. Instead of a month, you could narrow it down to 2 weeks. You could narrow it down to a week or even day. You can click on one of the days during the month if you want to see what's happening during that day. You can click on these little arrows to the left and right, and that will go month to month. So again, if you say I want to zoom into the 5th of September, I just click on the day, and sure enough, it just lists out what's on the 5th of September, right? And then you could just go back to month if you want to. And that's kind of how you can navigate the course homepage. Lots of good information on there. You can actually click on these assignments and it will take you to the assignments and you can complete it from there. If you want a little bit, perhaps a cleaner interface for your assignments, I would go over to the left and click on the assignment button. From there, wait for it to load a little bit. And as long as it says all assignments, all chapters, and show all, you would simply start at the top of the assignments and work them down the list all the way down to the bottom. Now it seems like there's quite a few assignments, and there kind of are, but you only have to do, generally speaking, the assignments with due dates next to them. The other ones are usually labeled as optional no grade or later on optional extra credit. Now, the first assignment that you would do is a Math 100 assignment, and what you would do is you take a pretest. The pretest does not count towards your grade, it only populates your homework. And what I mean by that is every equivalent question that you get correct on the pretest, you get credit for on all the homework in that module. So if, for instance, if the question was simplifying a fraction and you had a simplifying fractions question on one of these homework assignments, you get credit for all those. So if you make 100 on the pretest, you have very little homework. If you make a 0 on the pretest, don't worry, it just means you have to do all the homework. So it's not a disaster. So don't spend too much time on the pretest, just do your best and then move on. If you don't know how to do something, don't worry about it. Next, after you're done with the pretest, we have these media assignments. These media assignments are exactly what they say. They contain media. In this case, there's videos, there's a website, quite a few videos, and these are optional. These are not part of your grade. If you're struggling with this section of material, the homework underneath it, these media assignments may give you information you could take notes, and then maybe it'll help you do well on that assignment. Okay. So again, this is optional, no grade. You do not have to do any of the media assignments there for your own personal edification. So after you finish the media assignment or you skip it, you move on to the actual homework assignment. Now this says I need to take the pretest first, which is true, but I'm going to skip it because I'm the instructor and I can. Okay, so let's go into the homework assignment. Loads a little bit. Okay. So first thing, let's say you enter a wrong answer in a homework assignment. You get 3 tries on this particular problem, and at that point, it'll actually count it as wrong. Okay, don't panic. You can put similar question, and it'll change the numbers slightly, and then you get another 3 attempts. That means technically you have unlimited number of attempts to get your homework right. Now, you actually don't have to push this save button. The save button will just back up to the previous screen, but you don't actually have to use the save button for it to save your progress. Whenever you answer a question either correctly or incorrectly, it gives you credit. So for instance, -4 times +8, see -32, and it gives me credit. So now I have credit for it, right? Down below, you have Help Me Solve This. These are called student aids. Help Me Solve It will actually help you solve this problem, but you do have to interact with it. Whenever you exit or get done with Help Me Solve It, it will change the numbers. So please don't put Help Me Solve It, write down the answer that you get from that, and then try to enter it. It's no longer the same problem. View an Example is less interactive. It has different numbers than the actual problem here. And in this case, you don't have to interact. You can just click through and it will show you how to do a similar problem step by step. Many students find this to be the most useful thing in the course. View an example. Many students, 80–90% of the time, this is all they use to learn how to do problems in the course. Okay, and you also have textbook. This does exactly what it says. It takes you to the textbook, into the textbook to find a problem that's similar to show you how to do a similar problem step by step. So we just scroll down, and sure enough, we have similar problems. Talks about signs, and we'll close that. Okay, I'm going to save to back up, but again, you don't actually have to save to save your work. It doesn't work that way. Okay, now let's go back to assignments. All right. This pattern is going to repeat where you're going to have a pretest at the beginning of a module. You're going to have a media assignment, then homework, media assignment, homework, media assignment, homework. Then you start the new module, another pretest, media assignment, homework. Then you have another. And when you finished all the modules, now you're going to move on to the actual 320 material. You're done with the Math 100 materials, and now you're moving on to the 320 material. So we still have optional, no grade, media assignment. The media assignments in 320 have more material in here. They don't just have videos, they also have textbook, they have flash or interactive elements, right? So these actually, you can move things around. Some people really like these, other people don't find them useful at all. Again, the media assignments are for you. Use them as much or as little as you want to. If you find them useful, by all means use them. If you don't find them useful, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on them. Again, they're optional. They don't influence your grade one way or the other. Okay, so after the media assignment, we have a homework assignment. And this pattern just keeps on repeating back and forth, back and forth. Now, many of the homework assignments in 320 actually have more student aids. Okay, what I mean by that is, let it load. Okay, when I put get more help, they actually have, many of these actually have videos as well as the textbook. And that's a video, usually a short video, that will show you how to do a similar problem. There are multiple instructors who do the videos, so if you don't like one of the instructors, you can keep on trying the videos in different sections, different homework, and maybe you'll find an instructor is explaining something that you actually like better, which is fine. Okay, so notice I just closed the window and I didn't even bother saving. It would have saved my work. It automatically saves your work when you enter a correct or incorrect answer. So let's go back to your assignments. Now, the 320 assignments are a little bit different in that when you complete all of the sections of homework, you have a chapter quiz. This chapter quiz is composed of questions from the homework. So if you've done your homework at this point, this is not the first time you're going to see these problems. The quiz is timed and the student aids are disabled. The quiz is optional. It's for extra credit. But what I do is I copy the quiz and I make a test out of it. And the quiz you can practice an unlimited number of times. So I have many students who do the quiz 3 or 4 times before they attempt the actual test. Again, the only difference is going to be the order of the problems is randomized. So for instance, if there are 20 questions on the quiz, then those 1 through 20 are going to be randomized and the numbers are going to be similar but not identical. So same problems, different order with different numbers. Outside of that, it's identical to the quiz. So again, the test is identical to the quiz, different numbers, different order. I'm not trying to throw any curveballs at you. Practice the quiz as many times as you need to so that you feel confident in your ability to do well on the test. Okay. You Again, you are timed on the quiz, and whenever you start it, there are student aids that are disabled. But whenever you submit the quiz, right, when you review it, the student aids are enabled, so you get to go through your quiz, find out the problems that you missed, and then you can use the student aids to figure out how to do those problems, the ones you didn't know how to do. So again, you have all the student aids, help me solve it, view an example, or get more help. They're all enabled when you review your quizzes. After you close the review of your quizzes, if you click on quiz again, it's just going to have you retake the quiz. If you want to review one of your old attempts on the quiz, you have to go underneath Gradebook, scroll down, and you'll have a review button next to quizzes and later on next to tests. So you click on the review, wait a little bit, and then you can review your quiz and all the student aids are enabled again, right? So let's go back to the assignment. Now, that pattern just repeats itself. So once you get into the 320, again, you have a media assignment, a section of homework, a media assignment, a section of homework. When you're done with the last section of the homework, you have a chapter quiz followed by a chapter test. And that pattern just keeps repeating until the end of the semester, where we have a comprehensive final exam. Now, by comprehensive, what I mean by that is it has questions from all the chapters that we've covered. So there's about 3 questions from each chapter. I do have a final exam quiz here. The same thing applies to the final exam quiz that applied to the other quizzes. So I basically copy the final exam quiz and make a test out of it. So again, there's 25 questions in the final exam. The order is going to be randomized. The numbers are going to be similar on the test. So if you want to know what to expect on the final exam, take the final exam quiz and take it as many times as you need to feel confident in your ability to do well. Now, I do add 10% of whatever you make on the quizzes on the corresponding tests, right? So if I go back to the chapter 2 quiz, for example, let's say I made 100 on the chapter 2 quiz. Well, 10% of 100 is 10, which means I would add 10 to the Honor Lock chapter 2 test. Now, what if I only made a 50? Well, that's okay. That would add 5 points to your test, right? So I don't round. No matter how low it is, say you made a 25, you still get 2.5 extra points, right? Um, Worst case scenario, I would like you to at least open the quiz, submit it, and just look over the problems. Make sure that you're kind of familiar with them, you kind of know what you're doing before you actually attempt the test. I don't want you to go into the test cold and feel like you didn't think a problem or a type of problem is going to be on there. So again, please at least look at the quiz, even if you don't actually do it. Just submit it with a 0. It's not going to hurt your grade. I only ever count your highest grade on anything, and just look over it. Make sure you're kind of familiar with it, and there's nothing in there you really don't know how to do. Okay, so that's the structure of the course. Now, one thing is, notice that the tests say Honor Lock tests. So whenever you're taking a test, whether it be a chapter test or whether it be the final exam, you have 2 options. You can either use Honor Lock or you can use the testing center. So to use Honor Lock, we would go back to Blackboard, and underneath course contents linked to MyLab, you'll notice that there is an Honor Lock link. What you would do is you would click on that link, you put launch, and you would install Honor Lock. Now, Honor Lock is a Google Chrome extension, so you have to have Google Chrome to install it. To use Honor Lock, you also have to have an OS or operating system, such as Windows, a Mac, or Chrome. Those are the only operating systems where Honor Lock works on it. Okay. Now, if that's the case, you would install it. It's going to ask you to verify yourself. There's 7 steps. I have a separate video on how to get set up on Honor Lock, but it's going to be running in the background as you take your test, recording you taking your test. If you attempt a test and Honor Lock, you turn it off or it doesn't get the record the full test, that test attempt does not count. Best case scenario is I'm going to delete the attempt and you're going to have to retake it. Honor Lock doesn't automatically fail you or say that you're cheating. I'm going to review the video, and if there's any suspicious behavior, I'm going to look at those flags. But again, I'm not out to get you. Unless you're obviously cheating, I'm not going to accuse you of cheating, if that makes any sense. So You can even take your tests in public. I have that allowed. If they're background noise, that's okay. There just can't be there can't be somebody sitting next to you taking the test for you. So if you have a baby in your lap, your dog is barking, your spouse interrupts you, your kids are yelling, I'm not going to fail you for any of that stuff, okay? Unless you're obviously cheating, I'm not out to get you. Nothing's going to happen. It's just going to record you taking your test. I'm going to review the video later, and you should be okay. Now, your other option is, and this is also listed under your announcements when you log in. You should see this anyways, but I'll just bring it up. HonorLock in the testing center. These are written instructions of how to use HonorLock. Plus, there's a video of showing you how to get set up and do it. It should be pretty self-explanatory if you just do it. It does tell you what to do as you're doing it, but you also have the option of using the testing center. So I do have links to the testing center here at the bottom here. Use Register Blast to sign up for it. It's going to ask you for which course you're taking. Okay, so you have to know that. You also have to know which test you're going to take, how long you're going to be in there, all that information. And then you just register there. You're going to have an appointment, and you're supposed to show up to the testing center, which is in the ATC building upstairs in room 211, and then you can take your test there. Okay, on test, you're allowed to use formula sheets. I have a link here. I also have another link under course content. You're allowed to use the formula sheet. You're allowed to use a scientific calculator, not a graphing calculator, and you're allowed to use scratch paper, pencils, or pens. That's it. Outside of that, you're not allowed to use anything else on the tests, whether it's in the testing center or using HonorLock. Okay, so let's go back to your course. Now, I also want to go over how I grade this course. Okay, so we went over the structure of the course. Hopefully that's you understand. If you have any questions, please contact me, email me, call me, leave a message if I don't answer. All right, so let's go over the 320 syllabus really quickly. Okay, next thing I want to go over is the grading policies in this course. Okay, I do have a calendar built into the syllabus and separate that shows what you should cover in an online course during the week to cover it as thinly as possible throughout the semester. What I mean by weekly homework due is all the stuff you were supposed to review during the week, the media assignments, or if it's a face-to-face course, what you're going to see in person, what we're going to lecture over in class, all that homework is due that weekend. So for instance, the first week, since the last thing you're supposed to cover is 2E, homework up through 2E is due that Saturday. Next week, because the last thing that is covered is at the additive property, that Saturday up through the additive property needs to be finished, right? So on and so forth, right? Now, later on, notice that when you finish the last section, for instance, 2.7 of a chapter, that Sunday, you have a test over that material due, okay? Later on, notice there in this week right here, you finish 3.4, then you move on to chapter 4. So 3.4 was the last section of chapter 3. That Sunday, you have a chapter 3 test due. Now, you don't have to use the calendar. Next to every assignment under assignments, there is a due date next to it. So even without the calendar, you should know when everything is due. Just simply look next to your assignments and just look at the due date. Okay, let's go back to the syllabus. Okay. I have office hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even Saturday. I'll put my Saturday office hours on here. So if you want to meet with me in person, these are the times I'm going to be in Bonner Hall 110. And I will add my Saturday hours there in a little bit. Okay. Late work policy. Homework does have due dates, but homework is open throughout the entire semester. If you do Math 100 homework after the due date, you will have a 5% penalty only on the problems you do after the due date, which means you get 95% credit. 95% credit is better than 0 credit. It would still behoove you to actually do the homework even past the due date. Please do not be alarmed by MyLab indicating you're going to incur a late penalty. It's still better. 95% is better than a 0. Still better to do it past the due date. Later on, when you go to your Math 100 material, the penalty is going to go up to 20%. So again, homework's always open throughout the entire semester. But each problem, individual problem, not the entire assignment, that is done past the due date, you'll get a slight 20% penalty, which means later on you get a 80% of the credit. 80% is better than zero. Chapter tests. Chapter tests actually have hard due dates. So if you don't do it by that Sunday, and you can always work ahead, by the way. You don't have to wait. All the assignments are open for the entire semester. So if you want to work ahead, feel free to work as far ahead as you want to. Now, chapter tests have a hard due date. After that, it's going to lock you out. And if you don't do your homework or you don't do your chapter tests, every Monday I put in zeros for those homework assignments that are past due or the tests that you didn't take. I'm going to put in zeros so your grade will be accurate at least at Monday. So at worst, your grade's going to be a little bit off between Sunday and Monday, those 12 hours before I put in zeros. Final exams, if you're not going to take your final exam, you really need to let me know, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit. Okay, now the 11 Math 100 homework assignments, those are 4% of your grade in 320, but they're 100% of your grade for Math 100. Then I have another 57 homework assignments, and these are actually 320 homework assignments, which compose all 57 put together are another 16% of your grade, which means 11 plus 57 or 68 homework assignments are worth a total of 20% of your grade. That's important. Okay, the chapter tests, we have 7 chapter tests that are 60% of your grade, and if you attempt all of the chapter tests, I'm going to drop your lowest score at the end of the semester, which means if we have 60% of your grade and you have 6 in the end chapter test, that means each chapter test is worth 10% of your grade. Now, each of your homework assignment is worth less than 1/3 of 1% of your grade, and one test is worth 10% of your grade. So it's about 30 homework assignments is worth one test. If you want to do well in this course, you need to do well on the chapter tests. Some of my students are confused why, if they made 100 on all their homework, they wonder why they're failing the test. Well, it's usually because they've been failing their chapter tests. So again, chapter tests, much more heavily weighted. You need to do well in the chapter test. And as I said before, to study for the chapter test, please do the quiz. Now you might ask, why does it say plus 6% extra credit here instead of 10? Well, 10% of 60 is actually 6. It's just two ways of saying the same thing. So the math works out. Don't worry about that though. Okay, now the final exam. The final exam is worth 20% of your grade. So it's worth 2 regular tests. So if you add your chapter test to your final exam, that's 80% of your grade. Whereas all the homework assignments put together are only worth 20% of your grade. So the tests are going to determine whether you pass or fail the course. Please focus on the quizzes to study for the test and do really well in the tests. Really quickly, I want to go back to the assignments. If you notice, you have unlimited tries on the quizzes, and you also have 2 tries on the chapter tests. I only ever count your highest attempt. So if you attempt the chapter test and you're not happy with your grade, you don't think you did very well, go back, study the quiz some more, and then retake the chapter test after reviewing the chapter test and making sure you know why you missed what you missed. Okay, so just want to point that out. You do have 2 tries on the chapter test. Only your highest attempt counts. And that is the grade book. All right. That's it. If you have any questions, please email me. If you want more information on honor lock, please watch the video. A new video is coming out because that honor lock video was made in Blackboard and not Blackboard Ultra. It's very, very close. 90% of it's the same, but it looks a little bit different. The UI is a little bit different. But again, if you have any questions, please contact me, email me, message me through Blackboard, leave me a message, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Well, have a great semester. Hope everyone does really well. Goodbye.